Welcome to our Thursday night meditations session, and our talk this evening is going to be on the greatest welfare work, and so we'll be getting to that in a little bit. But firstly, as is our usual practice, we're going to have a short little meditation. We'll do a little bit of breath focus, and then we'll focus on a mantra, a little mantra meditation, and this will help us calm down a little bit, get ready for the talk. So if everybody would like to close their eyes and just begin by putting your attention onto your breath. Don't need to do anything, just focus on your breathing, let your breathing go naturally. Breathing in through the nose if you're not already doing it. And as you're watching your breath like this, just notice how the inward breath is revitalizing the body, and on the outward breath you can notice the relaxing nature of the outward breath. So inward breath revitalizing, the outward breath relaxing, just letting the outward breath just drag out any tension you may be carrying. A nice way to see the outward breath is like if you ever go to the beach and the waves break onto the shore, and then when the water recedes back into the ocean, it drags that sand. Kids often play that game where they stand right at that little sweet spot where the water just drags out the sand from under your feet. So let your outward breath be like that. Let your outward breath just drag out any tension you may be carrying, especially in the shoulders. It's a place where we carry a lot of tension. Let the outward breath just drag out that tension. And the inward breath is two parts of the inward breath. There's the normal air we breathe that goes to the lungs. And then, of course, there's the chi or the prana, especially when we're breathing in through the nose. We're taking this subtle energy, chi, directly into our meridians. And so this is very enlivening in this other way as well. So with your inward breath, feel your body being enlivened by those two kinds of breaths. And then on the outward breath, just letting your outward breath drag out any tension and just let your body relax completely. So this breath focus helps, just relax the body, calm the mind, and it's just a very simple practice, and it can just get you into a nice calm space so you can more easily focus on the meditation practice, which we'll do now. So we're just going to focus on this beautiful yoga mantra, Gauranga, for a few minutes. This yoga mantra means the golden one, and especially for anybody who hasn't done this practice before, it's really easy. We're just going to be saying this mantra. Mantra means that sound which can draw the mind away from all the problems and so on, the problems of the mind. We focus on this transcendental sound, mantra, and we'll be just saying the sound with a long extended outward breath. And so we'll breathe in and we'll just say like Gauranga, like that. And that sound will last as long as the outward breath. And as we're making the sound, saying this mantra, we just let it enter into our ears, let it wash over our mind and our heart. And we don't need to struggle. It's good to be attentive in the focus, but it's not a struggle. It's just a very relaxed kind of attention. And if your mind wanders away somewhere, which for most of us it does from time to time, then you don't need to worry. Just bring it back to the sound. And we'll just focus on this mantra just for a few minutes. And just letting it wash over the mind. It has a very purifying effect on the mind. So all breathe in together, breathing in. Gora Anga. We'll just go like this for a few minutes. Breathing in again. Gora Anga. Gora Anga. My voice is not working properly, so just go ahead on your own. Breathing in, and on the outward breath, Goranga. Just say it with a long, drawn out outward breath. Just do a couple more, two more. Okay, so we'll just finish off where we started, just putting your attention back onto the breath now. Inward breath, revitalizing. The outward breath, relaxing. And whenever you're ready, we can just finish off. Just open the eyes. Maybe just work your hands a little bit. Get a little bit of movement, just get the body waking up again. Okay, so apologise for my voice. I don't know what happened, but it's just not working on that kind of level today for some reason. But I think I can talk. I seem to be talking okay, so we'll continue. So tonight's topic is the greatest welfare work. And before we get to that, what is the greatest welfare work? We just want to talk about welfare in general. And it's a very wonderful topic, actually, this idea of welfare. And you're going to turn the music off. So we'll just turn the music off. So this idea of welfare, a good place to start to appreciate what welfare actually is just for a moment or two to look at the opposite of welfare work. You know, we've got a general idea of what welfare work is. You know, most people, we understand it's the selfless giving to others in some way. There's many ways we can engage in welfare of others, or even what the welfare of the planet. You can see welfare like that. But generally it's this idea of giving of ourselves without expecting anything in return. And it's a very wonderful concept, you know, to think about it and to meditate on it, actually. But like I was saying, a good place to start is to look at the opposite. What's the opposite of giving? It's this: me, mine, selfishness, miserliness. You know, this greed, these kind of things. And the opposite of welfare sort of invokes a kind of a loathing. As inspiring as welfare, the idea of welfare is the opposite, is kind of de-inspiring, if there's such a word. Probably not, but anyway, I think you know what I mean. The opposite of inspiring, it's kind of like a loathing. You know, we don't like the idea of people being miserly or greedy or selfish. And one way you can understand it, sometimes people might think, oh, you know, it's okay to be like that. Yeah, just imagine if the whole world was like that. Every single person in the world was very miserly and greedy and selfish and not inclined to welfare. I think we'd, you know, get the idea. It'd be a pretty horrible place. So, you know, there's a saying that charity begins at home. I think maybe many of you would have heard of that. Charity begins at home. Welfare, you know, caring for others begins at home. And it's very true. We have a tendency to care about those who are closest to us in our lives. And usually that's family. You know, we care more about our family than, you know, doing a little bit of dangerous generalization here, because of course there's a lot of people that care about everybody. So those people aside, you know, many people, I think if we're honest, will admit that we tend to care more about our own little family. We care more about our kids than others, and so on. Again, there's no rule about that, and it's a little bit dangerous for me to say that, because there's obviously going to be exceptions, but you know, I think we can generalize to some extent in that way. You know, we tend to care more about our own little tribe or our own little families. So this is, you know, gonna be there, and it's especially going to be there when we identify ourselves with the material body. A little bit later in the talk we'll describe how, you know, real welfare work is based on a different kind of concept altogether. Once we have a different concept of who we are, then our idea of what welfare is changes. But for now, let's just, you know, talk about it in terms of, you know, those people who identify themselves as their body. You know, I'm the body, and then I've got my, I'm a child, I'm in this particular family, and I'm in this particular tribe, and that's who I belong to. And so I tend to care more about them. So this is going on, and it's nice to some extent. At least it's more than just myself. At least I care about a few other people. right? I care about my kids, I care about my, my partner, I care about my brothers and so on. So this is very nice. But then you can expand that a little bit further and you start to get into, the kind of welfare that some of the spiritual traditions of the world have advised. Like in Christianity, you have the idea of the Good Samaritan, who's going to help his neighbour in need, just some stranger, someone he doesn't even know. He's going to go out of his way to help them. And, in Islam they have that idea too, and in the yoga traditions of India they have that kind of idea that you're not just concerned about feeding your own family, you're concerned about what's going on down the road as well. There's a really wonderful, pardon me, there's something going on with my voice tonight, but there's a wonderful admonition that's there in the yoga teachings that, when, it's time for the family meal, you've got these different family units, they've got the different houses, people are cooking and so on, getting ready to feed their families. And it's said that, before that they take food, the people in the house will go out to the door, go out into the street and call out to anybody, we're serving food now, something like that. Anybody who's hungry or wants something to eat, you're welcome, come. How's that? Is that, just amazing? Imagine if that was going on all over the world. So this is, an extended idea of welfare. And, it's quite wonderful that these ideas and these kind of attitudes, they're spread far and wide. You come across them in every culture, every kind of, ethnic culture, every kind of religious institutions. They all have this idea of caring for others more, caring for others. And to whatever degree it's there, it makes the world a better place. And so this is, welfare, and of course that's just an example of it going on an individual basis, just ordinary everyday people doing it in their day-to-day life. And sometimes there's big it goes on in a much more organised way. You get these big charity organisations, and Doctors Without Borders and so on. I don't even know them all. I'm sure there's many kinds of these welfare organisations that are trying to do good and trying to help others beyond themselves. So this is all very wonderful, but when we're thinking about welfare, though, you start to, when you look at it in a bit more detail, we start to see that as it's effective. Some kinds of welfare activities are more effective than others. They're more, take for example it's almost like a cliche. I remember when I was growing up, a young kid, and you'd often see someone in the street begging, and they were usually, really down and out, and we kind of knew that, they were just going to use the money to buy alcohol or something, and I remember, my parents used to say things, don't give them any money, they're just going to use it to go and buy alcohol and it won't be good for them, like that. So that's going on even these days. It goes on. I see it in the street where I live from time to time, and it could be said that that's kind of welfare is not really welfare at all. And it's true, but I find myself sometimes just, regardless of what they're going to use the money for, sometimes, no, I don't do it all, every situation is different, but sometimes I'll just give some money to somebody anyway. I don't even think about what they're going to do with it. That's their business in a sense. I see it as my business. This person's got his hand out. He's in need, obviously, of something. He's down and out in one way or another. And so I'm going to go, yeah. Because even that act of just giving, is encouraging to somebody like that. It brightens up their day a little bit, regardless of what they're going to use the money for. But anyway, the point is, you can there's effective or, good kind of charity, I guess you'd call it, good kind of welfare and not so good welfare. So you can start to, I don't want to get too much into the, details of these kind of things, but, another example that's quite common, which, people often talk about to, describe the different kinds of welfare is the idea of, some of you would have heard it for sure, like, oh, you can, somebody's hungry, you can give him a fish and you'll feed him for a day, or you can teach him how to fish and you'll feed him for his whole lifetime, like that kind of thing. What's the greater gift in a sense? What's the greater welfare? If you don't like that analogy, if you're a vegetarian like me, you could say, same thing. Rather than giving him a banana, we teach him how to farm and like that. So there's different kinds of welfare, and some of them, are more effective, and some of them are more helpful than others. Either way, but the first point I really want to get across is, whether it's effective or ineffective, the very act of a person wanting to give, the attitude that somebody wants to help in some way, they want to give, even if they don't know how to give properly or what's the best thing to do, they want to give. And this is a very wonderful thing that a person has this. So then, you say one of these people, and I'm hoping, and I'm pretty sure it would be most people would be like that. Most people have a tendency to have this giving attitude. So then, at some point somebody might start thinking, okay, now what's the best way I can help? What is the best kind of welfare? Because if you start thinking about, I'm going to start talking about welfare now from the point of view of yoga and yoga knowledge. So, again, normally we think of welfare in terms of material help in some way. We're going to give you clothing, we're going to give you food, we're going to give you a job, we're going to give you a place to stay. That kind of welfare, material welfare. And again, this is very wonderful, but from the point of view of yoga, we sort of look at this and go, okay, we're going to give food. All these things are good. We're going to help them materially in different ways. But the problem there's two kinds of problems with this kind of material giving. And that is that no matter what you do for a person materially, it's not actually going to deeply satisfy them. And this is not to say that it shouldn't be done. It should be done, but it should be understood. The limitations of it should be understood. Just like, and you can very easily understand this from just looking at the rich people that don't need welfare. They don't need material welfare, at least. They don't need material welfare. They don't need money. They've got a house. They've got a car. They've got everything they need materially. But even those people are not completely satisfied. They're still wanting. They're in this wanting condition, right? They're not deeply satisfied, in other words. In other words, you can be superficially satisfied in terms of our material needs, survival and so on. But on a deeper level, there's still this wanting, the deeper fulfillment that we need is not being taken care of. And then, the other problem with material welfare is that no matter what you do for a person materially, ultimately, they're going to die anyway, right? Let's say I'm a doctor and I'm going to heal somebody and I save their life. Yes, that's nice, that's wonderful. But ultimately the skills of the doctor are they're going to be ineffective at some point. And so in this way, what I'm getting at is the limitations of material welfare. Yes, it's good, it's wonderful, it should be done, but there's limitations there. So from the point of view of yoga, and by what I mean by yoga is a person who understands the distinction between the body and the real self, who understands that there's a spiritual soul within the body, then we understand welfare. We understand what welfare is and what real welfare is from a totally different angle. Again, I say it again and again and again, that no, it doesn't mean material welfare is neglected, but on its own, material welfare is never going to be enough. We have to have what's called spiritual welfare activities, and that is, in the first instance, giving a person the knowledge of who they are, that there's a distinction between the self, the real person, and their physical body. Once we understand that, then we can understand, look at welfare from a different point of view. So I want to read a quote, just one of the yoga texts, and I've got a couple here actually, which talk about some of these points. And this is one referring to what I was just talking about. When you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of material miseries, the ocean of miseries. So this is from the fourth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So it's a general point, but it gives us a clue as to what this spiritual welfare is. And like we're saying, it means firstly to gain knowledge. So that's like I'm saying before, normally we think of welfare in terms of, something solid. Oh, I got this money, or I got this house, or I got something solid. But knowledge is actually a gift as well. If somebody gives you knowledge, then you're a recipient of welfare. This is for your welfare. Knowledge. So there's a couple of, and this knowledge primarily, centered on what my teacher has called the science of identity. So this science of identity, understanding our true nature and how we're situated in relation to our physical body, our temporary physical body. This is called the science of identity. It's a very wonderful understanding that anybody who has it will their life will be changed for the better in so many different ways. We don't have time to get into all those details of that, but just the summary of it is that the real you, the real person, is you're spiritual in essence. You're a little spiritual spark, a spiritual soul, a little ray of the Supreme Soul. And this knowledge is what we actually really need. We can have, like I'm saying, we can be very rich and wealthy. We don't need any other welfare in that sense. We need this kind of welfare. We need this kind of welfare is called spiritual food sometimes. Just like a person needs food, we give them, well, we need what's called spiritual food. We need knowledge to be truly satisfied. So we have to be, satisfied on both levels. Of course, our body needs taken care of, needs to be satisfied, and then spiritually we need to be nurtured as well. And I just want to, just to try and, clarify the distinction here. There's a couple of nice analogies that I learned from my teacher over the years, and I'll mention them both because they're both really interesting, and try and remember. Some of you out there may know them, but if you don't, try and remember these analogies. Even if you don't remember all the details, just remember the gist of it, and you'll be able to remember the rest, and it'll flow on. They're kind of self-explanatory in a lot of ways. But the first one is the idea of a fish being out of water. So when a fish is out of water, you sometimes see a fish on dry land, it's struggling because it's out of its natural environment. And, no matter what you do for that fish, it only needs one thing, right? We know what that fish needs. We know what the welfare, what's the best welfare for that fish? Back in the water. That's what that fish needs. So anything else we do is not going to really work. Anything else we do is not going to be done out of wisdom. We might have the tendency to want to help, but if we don't know how to help, then our help is going to be ineffective. It's going to be misplaced. So, I can't do it as well as my teacher once did, but he described it in a very, nice way. He said, you can give that fish food, you can give it a blanket, you can put it in a bed, you can, give it a partner, have it mate with another fish, you can, cuddle it, you can, everything. You can do all of it. So many different things you can do, and it's not going to help. There's only one thing it needs to get back into its natural environment. So this is, what we're talking about here is wise welfare and, welfare that's misdirected, like that. Okay, so this is what we were talking about earlier. It's very wonderful to have that tendency, that, attitude of wanting to give, but it's much better if we know how to give. We know what to give, what's needed. So we need to combine that attitude of giving with wisdom. Then it's a good combination. So this is, the idea that, this analogy of the fish. It's, speaking to the difference between, trying to satisfy a person materially and satisfying them spiritually. We can give them everything they want materially, but they're still going to be satisfied. And again, I encourage everybody to meditate on the rich people. You can read about them in the big, gossip magazines. They're all wealthy and famous and got everything, and yet their lives are in turmoil because of this relationship and this desire and this thing, and this person cheated on them, and their lives are in turmoil. They're dissatisfied, even though they have everything. They're like that fish on the dry land. I've got this, I've got that, I've got it. But they're not swimming in their natural environment, and their natural environment, which they need to, immerse themselves in is the spiritual environment, because that's who they really are. We're not the physical body. We're distinct from the physical body. We're spiritual in essence. So we need to learn about spiritual food. What is the food I need to be satisfied spiritually? So we'll come to that in a minute. But I'll go to the second analogy is another one that my teacher gave, and this one's it involves water too, actually, but it's a little bit different. So this one's, imagine, you're a person is like a ship. So you imagine, there's all these people on a big, luxury liner or so on like that, these big ships that are on the ocean. And so everybody's, having a good time on this ship, and this is symbolic of material life. We're sailing on the ocean of life, and we're enjoying the music and enjoying the food, on those luxury cruise lines and so on. And oh yes, it's all very wonderful. But the reality is, of course, that this ship of material life is going to hit an iceberg. It's going to come undone at some point. Whether sooner or later we're going to get old and that ship is going to sink. Our material life will sink. And it happens to everybody. You can't buy your way out of it. The rich people will sink along with the poor people and so on. So what's welfare work in this sort of situation? Welfare work, let's enjoy life on the boat, make sure everybody's got enough food, make sure everybody's got their warm cabin and stuff and so on. And make sure there's music to enjoy and take care of everybody. And then this person comes along and starts, someone like me, somehow gets onto the boat and starts saying things like, well, this is all very nice, you're all taking care of your needs and so on, material needs, but, just remember this ship is going to sink at some point. So you need to be prepared for that. You need to get ready. You need to, and everybody looks at you like, how did he get on this ship? What's he doing here? Trying to wreck the party. So this is going on too, and if you've ever tried to, engage in this kind of spiritual welfare work, you know what I'm talking about. It's not that easy. So, people tend to, not want to know about it. But if you look at it from an objective point of view, just pull back from the ship and, imagine you're, up in a little bit, a couple of 100 yards away, and you're looking at it from a distance, then you can look at it, see what's really going on. You've got all these people running around on the boat, but you can see what's happening. You can see that this thing is going to sink. You can see ahead. And so in that situation, it's completely different. The guy who's running around, not running around, but the person who's trying to tell people, hey, look, this is going to sink. He's actually the sane person, isn't it? He's the sane one. The people that have just got their eyes, oh yeah, everything's okay, they're the ones that are nuts. Sorry. Isn't that a fact? If you know this thing's going to sink, then of course you're going to start, your idea of welfare is going to be different than everybody on that boat. So welfare, what's real welfare, what's good, valuable welfare, and what's not, and what. It depends on how we understand things. It depends on our vision and our understanding. So myself, as a teacher of meditation and yoga, I'm always encouraging people to, try and see things as they really are. So try and have a vision which takes into, you can judge very rationally what is good welfare and what is not so good welfare. What's the best kind of welfare? So these people that are on the ship, you know, anybody out there, you can be one of them that's letting people know, yes, this is all very good, we're all taken care of materially, and if someone's not taken care of materially, we'll make sure they have a place on the boat where they can, you know, be comfortable and have enough food and so on. It's all very good. But let's do that, but don't lose sight of the fact that this thing is going to sink. Always have that in the back of your mind as well, and then you'll take care of this other kind of welfare, which is when it does sink, you're not going to be panicking. You're going to know exactly what to do. You know where the lifeboats are, and you're just going to, you know, calmly make your way. Okay, the boat's sinking. Yeah, I knew that was going to happen. Now I'm going to the lifeboats, and it's all very smooth transition. So these are, you know, some of the, you know, things that, you know, we can consider when we're talking about welfare. And of course the lifeboats and so on, that's, you know, a metaphor for meditation, for spiritual development. So this is the actual, what do you think? You know, we're talking about welfare and what's the best, well, what's the, what do we think out there? I can't have a back and forth with you, anybody who's watching, but I can ask you, and you know, consider it at home, which is the really good kind of welfare. What's the greatest welfare work here? So the greatest welfare is to make it so that, you know, when that boat sinks, the people have a very relaxed off-ramp. You know, they can get off in a very relaxed and calm and orderly manner. Is that valuable? What do you think? So we can, you know, of course, you know, we can take care of our material needs and so on. This is a part of yoga. It's a big mistake to think that, you know, yoga means you've got to renounce everything. Some people take that path of complete renouncement, but it's not necessary, and it's not really advised, actually, at this particular time in history anyway. For most of us, it's best to just, you know, take care of our material needs and so on, but always keep an eye out for our greatest welfare, which is our spiritual welfare. And the way that welfare is taken care of, the spiritual food that we need, the nurturing, it's taken care of by this practice of meditation. Very wonderful yoga practice. In fact, it's sometimes called, this way of meditation is sometimes called dhyana yoga or raja yoga. So raja means king, and so meditation is the topmost yoga practice to learn how to focus the mind spiritually. We focus on our natural relationship with the divine, with the Supreme Soul, and we receive this knowledge, this understanding as a form of welfare. And then once we have that knowledge ourselves, then we're quite capable of giving it to others as well. So we can, you know, engage in that giving as well. So, you know, we can be like a person on that boat who's, you know, letting people know, hey, you know, lifeboats. don't forget the lifeboats. And this is very wonderful. And okay, so I'm going to, I think I'm going to leave it at that. I'm hoping that these ideas are, usually in my presentations I'm a little bit scattered, but, you know, I'm hoping that, you know, I've made some of these points clear. and understandable. So this is the way of yoga, this process of, this kind of, and when we engage in this activity of giving and helping others, this is called karma yoga. So there's different sort of grades, if you like, of karma yoga. Karma means action. So, any selfless action can be called karma yoga. Even, when we selflessly give to charity, that's a form of karma yoga. That's selflessness. That is karma yoga. But when that selflessness becomes, saturated with spiritual understanding and wisdom, and we learn how to give, in a way which is going to help people spiritually, then this is actually the real meaning of karma yoga. This is the more mature form of karma yoga, more complete form of karma yoga, where we're actually, not just helping a person materially, but we're helping them spiritually as well. This is the greater form of welfare work. This is the best kind of welfare work. As it's said sometimes that, material welfare work can save a person, but ultimately it won't even save a person. They're going to die no matter what. So you can temporarily put off a person's death. That's material welfare work. You can temporarily keep death at bay for a while, but ultimately you won't even be able to do that. Whereas spiritual welfare means that the person will become spiritually realized. If the person becomes fully spiritually realized, they'll exist, they'll go on to live in the spiritual dimension. They won't even need to take birth again in the material world. They won't need a material body anymore because they'll be fully existing in the spiritual dimension. And so you've saved them from many deaths, because a person who doesn't develop their spiritual realization, who doesn't have spiritual realization, if they're still attached to material life and so on in different ways, then they're going to take birth again. This is called reincarnation. They'll have to take birth again and again. As long as one has material attachments, we'll continue to have material bodies to fulfill and to satisfy those attachments and desires. So this is another big subject which we can't talk about now, but again, it's another way of understanding the distinction between material welfare and spiritual welfare. There's no comparison actually. But again, for probably about the 10th time, even if we're giving without wisdom, without spiritual wisdom, that's okay. The attitude of giving in itself is very wonderful. We just need to tap into some wisdom now and then find out how to really give in a really meaningful way. All right, so we're going to leave it at that now, and we're going to do some of this meditation that we're talking about, and specifically we're going to do kirtan. I think some of you who are watching now will have done this before, but maybe not everybody. So we'll just have a quick run through. I'm going to get my guitar here. And so this form of meditation, we're going to be saying a mantra. This mantra is a little bit different than the one we did earlier. This one, Gopala, Govinda, Rama, Madana, Mohana. And it means, there's a lot of different meanings, details to these meanings, but generally it just means the all-attractive reservoir of pleasure. So when we're saying this mantra, it's like there's a lot of different ways to do mantra meditation. Sometimes it can be done, very mechanically and, in a sort of just a clinical kind of way. We're just focusing on the sound and so on. But it's, and there's nothing wrong with that, but if you want to add to your meditation experience, then it's good to put a little bit of heart into it, put a little bit of soul into it, and see it as a type of, like a love song in a sense. There's a lot of different ways to describe it, but I often see it as a love song, a cry of love. It's the cry of the soul to be reunited with the Supreme Soul. And ultimately this is the topmost form of meditation, or the topmost attitude, the best attitude to have. But let's just say this mantra and try and follow along. I'll just sing. Normally we have, one person leads the kirtan and others follow, but tonight I'll just continually sing, and if you're at home and you'd like to join in or listen, you're welcome. And again, the idea of this meditation, we just, we focus in an attentive way, but relaxed, and just let the sound enter into your ears, let it wash over your mind, let it wash over your heart, and just enjoy this meditation. We don't need to struggle and so on. Just enjoy the experience of focusing on this mantra. This is our link to the spiritual world, so to speak, this mantra. Gopala, Govinda, Rama, Madana, Mohana, 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 Gopala, Govinda, Radhana Mohana, Gopala, Govinda, Radhana Mohana, Gopala, Govinda, Radhana Mohana, Gopala, Govinda, Rama, Dana, 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 Mohana, Gopala, Govinda.